What if the one thing you were running from was the only place you were ever meant to belong? The iron wheels of the westbound train groaned to a stop at Dryline station, sending up a cloud of red dust that settled on everything like rust-colored snow. Through the grimy window, Mara Quinn watched the ramshackle town take shape in the heat shimmer. Wooden storefronts leaned against each other like tired old men, signs creaking in the desert wind. Everything looked sun-bleached, thirsty, and ready to break. She clutched her mother's violin case tighter. It was the last piece of home she had left. The leather handle dug into her palm, but she didn't loosen her grip. Inside her travel bag lay the folded map her brother Patrick had drawn before joining the cavalry. Water rights, land claims, lines he swore would change their future. It was all Mara had to protect until he returned. "Dryline! All passengers off!" the conductor shouted. Mara rose, smoothing her worn black dress. 18 months of mourning had faded it to gray. But she had no coin for new clothes. She stepped onto the platform and felt the heat slap her like an open hand. Cowboys jostled past, spurs clinking. A woman in bright satin hurried away without looking up. Somewhere a baby cried. Coal smoke hung heavy in the air. "Watch yourself, widow woman," a man growled, shoving past her. She stumbled, but caught herself on a post, keeping her chin high. Pride was the only thing she could still afford. Across the street stood Henley's pawn shop. She hated the idea of going inside, but hunger had a louder voice than memories. The violin had been her mother's, played at weddings, christenings, and nights when the world felt kind, but kindness didn't buy meals. Inside, tobacco smoke hugged the ceiling. The shopkeeper, a thin man with cold eyes, didn't bother to look up. "What you got?" Mara set the violin on the counter like placing a heart for sale. "A fine instrument. It's worth $10. Her breath caught. "It's worth at least 30. 10, he said again, already ignoring her. Before she could answer, an explosion ripped through the street. The windows rattled. People screamed. The pawn man ducked behind the counter. Mara ran to the door. Across the way, smoke billowed from the freight yard. Men ran in every direction. In the chaos, someone shoved her hard from behind. "There! That's her! I saw her near the freight cars earlier!" Mara spun to see a wild-eyed man pointing at her, whiskey heavy on his breath. "She's one of them anarchists! Check her bags!" "I don't know what you're talking about," she shouted, but hands were already grabbing. Someone pulled open her travel bag. The precious map crinkled. "Please, stop." A fist came out of nowhere, only it wasn't meant for her. It slammed into the drunken man's jaw, dropping him like a stone. A tall man, in a worn leather vest, stepped between her and the mob. He took her arm firmly. "Can you run?" he asked, voice steady as stone. She nodded. He pulled her through the crowd, weaving through alleys until shouts faded behind them. Only, when they reached a quiet side street, did he stop beside a wagon loaded with supplies. "Get in," he said. "I don't even know you." "Name's Silas McCrae. I manage Three Rivers Ranch, and you're about 5 minutes from getting yourself strung up by that mob." His gray eyes met hers, steady, sharp, but not unkind. They get excited when something explodes. Easier to blame strangers. "I didn't do anything," Mara whispered. "I know." He motioned to the wagon seat. "Come on." She climbed up, still clutching her violin and bag like lifelines. Silas clicked to the horses, and the wagon rolled out of town. "Where were you planning to stay?" he asked. I hadn't decided yet." "You were trying to sell the violin." She looked away. "It was my mother's. That's why it hurt so much." His voice softened. "Hard times make folks do things they never thought they would." They rode in silence a while before he spoke again. "Three Rivers needs kitchen help. The foreman's wife has been running things alone. $1 a day, plus room and board. Why would you help me?" "You weren't lying," he said simply. "I can tell when someone's holding on to the last thing they've got." Quote, As the wagon climbed into the valley, the land opened into long stretches of sage and red rock. The late sun painted everything gold. It felt like a new world, quiet, wide, and waiting. There, Silas pointed, a cluster of buildings sat nestled in the valley. 3 rivers, named for the 3 streams that used to run here. Only one still does. They rode toward the main house, but a commotion stopped them. A small woman with fierce eyes, Mrs. Valdez, was shouting at a tall man in a fine black suit. "Mr. Gideon Slade," Silas muttered. "Railroad speculator." "Don't trust him." Slade turned, his eyes sliding toward Mara with interest that made her uneasy. "And who might this be?" he asked smoothly. "Miss Quinn," Silas said, stepping slightly in front of her, "our new kitchen help." "How fortunate," Slade said, smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. "Three Rivers is so generous with charity." Mrs. Valdez crossed her arms. "Come," she told Mara sharply. "Let me show you your room." As Mara followed her inside, she glanced back at Silas. He stood watching Slade's retreating carriage, jaw tight. "Don't trust that man," he said quietly. "He smiles while measuring your coffin." Later, alone in her small room off the kitchen, Mara pulled out Patrick's map. Notes in his careful hand marked hidden springs, old stream paths, hints of water buried deep. Water was power out here. And she had just stepped into a world where men like Gideon Slade would burn a ranch to ash if it meant owning a single drop. She hid the map beneath her mattress, took a shaky breath, and prayed she hadn't just brought danger to the only place that had shown her kindness. What if the one thing keeping you alive was the very thing someone else would kill to take? Before the first light touched the mountains, Mara was already out of bed. The air was cold, sharp enough to wake her fully. She dressed quickly and stepped into the kitchen, where a single lamp flickered. Mrs. Valdez was already kneading dough, moving like someone born knowing how to command a kitchen. "Good. You're awake," she said, handing Mara an apron. "Coffee first. Cowboys without coffee are worse than wolves." Mara got the massive pot going, measuring grounds as Mrs. Valdez listed jobs. Biscuits by the dozens, beans that had soaked overnight, salt pork, eggs when they had them. 20 men needed feeding before sunrise. "They're like boys," Mrs. Valdez said. "Big, hungry boys. They work hard. They eat more. You work hard. You eat more, too." By the time the sun crested the mountains, golden light poured through the windows, and the kitchen smelled of biscuits and strong coffee. Cowboys filed in with sleepy greetings. "Morning, Mrs. V," they muttered, hats in hand. A tall black cowboy with kind eyes nodded at Mara. "Ma'am, I'm Isaiah Cole." "Good morning," she said, surprised by the gentle warmth in his voice. Breakfast passed in a steady rhythm of serving plates and refilling cups, but everyone changed the second Silas walked in. They straightened, quieted. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. "Water's running low in the east pasture," he announced. "Isaiah, take 3 men and check the upstream flow. Something's off." Quote. A chill ran through Mara. Water again. After breakfast, as the cowboys rode out, Mara and Mrs. Valdez cleaned in companionable silence. "You're wondering about the water," Mrs. Valdez finally said. Mara hesitated. "Silas mentioned it's precious." "More than precious. It is life here." The older woman paused, knuckles pressing flour into dough. 3 streams once fed this valley. Only one still runs strong. And even that. She didn't finish. Later, hanging laundry on the line, Mara studied the land. 3 rivers sat tucked in a valley, protected yet exposed. Water made the grass green, made the ranch live. Without it, everything died. "You have your brother's eyes." Mara startled. A tall man stood beside her without making a sound. His features bore the sharp, strong lines of the local tribes, calm, watchful. "I didn't hear you," she said. "Most don't." He nodded respectfully. "Joseph. Some call me Atza. I scout for McCrae. I'm Mara." He studied her a moment, then nodded again, as if confirming something he already knew. "I helped your brother map his claim 2 winters ago. He was a good man. Listen to the land. Few do." He pointed to the northeastern ridge. "Storm coming. 3 days." The sky was clear blue. "Are you sure?" Quote, "The land speaks," Joseph said simply. "Most just don't hear." When he left, a strange unease settled over her. Patrick had met this man, trusted him, and Joseph looked at her as if he already knew her purpose. By afternoon, Mara wandered to the barn. Silas was there, repairing a bridle. Joseph said a storm is coming. She told him, "He's never wrong." Silas tested the leather strap. "If he says 3 days, prepare for 3. She hesitated before speaking again. "My brother's map." He marked signs of deeper water, real sources. Silas's hand stilled. He looked up fully. "That's what Slade wants, isn't it?" Quote. Silas nodded slowly. "Your brother wasn't the only one searching. Old surveyors talked about underground flows. Slade's been buying up land, guessing where they might be." Mara swallowed. Patrick wrote about hidden channels. Quote, "Guard that map," Silas said quietly. "Some people would kill for it." That night, the weekly supply trip to town came. Mara went along with Isaiah and 2 others. She needed thread, soap, and a few things to make her room more like home. But people stared. Whispers followed her. She felt the same sharp judgment as the day she stepped off the train. The general store shopkeeper looked her up and down. "You're the new girl at 3 Rivers," she said, making it sound like an accusation. "Yes, ma'am. Heard you caused trouble last week." Explosion and such. Isaiah stepped forward, tall and steady as a wall. Miss Quinn was nowhere near the freight yard during the blast. Everyone saw her at Henley's. The woman muttered but said nothing more. Outside, Mara nearly ran into Gideon Slade. "Miss Quinn," he said with a smile too smooth to trust. "Settling in well, I hope?" "Yes," she said coolly. "You know," he said, stepping closer, "I've heard stories about your brother. Talented young man, clever with maps." Mara froze. "How would you know that?" "Oh, people talk." Slade leaned in, voice soft. "Family matters are delicate, hard to manage alone." Isaiah shifted, blocking him. "Back off." Slade raised his hands innocently. "Just being neighborly." Then he looked at Mara with eyes sharp enough to cut. "Some land claims are difficult for a woman to protect on her own. Accidents happen. Papers go missing, loved ones get hurt." Her blood ran cold. Before she could speak, Silas's voice snapped through the air like a whip. "Slade." Slade turned, smiling as if they were lifelong friends. "McCrae." "Always a pleasure." "You threaten one of mine again," Silas said calmly, "and we'll have problems you can't smooth over with money." Slade tipped his hat. "Just friendly conversation." Then he walked off, leaving a trail of unease behind him. On the ride back, Mara gripped her bag tightly. "He knows about Patrick," she whispered. "Slade has spies everywhere," Silas said, "but knowledge isn't proof, not yet." Night had fallen by the time they returned. The ranch was quiet, too quiet. Even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. Later, alone in her room, Mara pulled out the map. Her fingers trembled. Patrick's careful lines showed everything: the streams, the ridge lines, the ancient paths water once took. If Slade got this map, he'd own the entire valley. A soft knock broke her thoughts. Silas stood in the doorway. "Just checking you're settling in," he said softly. "The map," she whispered. "Slade wants it. I think he'll try something." "You're safe here," Silas said. "I swear it." But as his eyes lingered on her face, she wondered if even he believed that anymore. And then, when she finally crawled into bed, she saw it. A shadow outside her window, watching, waiting. The water war had already begun. What if the danger chasing you was the very thing that would lead you straight into love? The next morning brought frost on the grass and tension in the air. Cowboys moved with purpose, eyes sharp, hands never far from their rifles. The shadow Mara had seen outside her window had been real. Isaiah confirmed boot tracks leading toward the creek. They were watching the house, he told Silas. For the map, Silas replied. They're getting bold. Mara felt the truth of it in her bones. After breakfast, Joseph returned from scouting the upper creek. His face was grim. The flume is damaged, he said. 3 sections cut with an axe. Silas cursed under his breath. Slade's men! Isaiah shook his head. No tracks. They came in the water. Mrs. Valdez crossed herself. Cowards! They strike in darkness. We'll repair it, Silas said, though his jaw was tight with worry. I want to help, Mara said. You sure? Silas asked gently. She nodded. More sure than I've been about anything. Together, they rode out. The damage was worse than she imagined. Broken planks lay in the ravine, water spilling uselessly into the rocks below. Whoever did this knew exactly where to strike, Isaac said. They want to starve the ranch, Joseph replied. Take the water before the war starts. We fix it, Silas said, no matter how long it takes. All morning they worked, measuring, replacing supports, hauling heavy beams. Mara's hands blistered, her muscles burned, but she kept going. Every swing of her hammer felt like a promise to Patrick, to herself, to this place that had given her safety. By late afternoon, riders appeared on the ridge. 6 men. Slade rode at the front. Silas's men froze. Keep working, Silas said quietly, though his voice carried steel. Slade rode down the slope with a lazy smile. Good day, neighbors. Nobody spoke. Such a shame, Slade continued. All that work on a flume that doesn't belong to you. It's ours, Silas said. Not according to these. Slade held up papers Mara recognized with sickening clarity. Copies of land claims, water rights, documents that looked official but were forged. You stole those, Silas said. Slade smirked. The law only cares about what's on paper, and this paper says the water flows through my property. It doesn't, Mara snapped. I've seen the real documents. Have you now? Slade's eyes gleamed. Perhaps that's why someone's been looking in your window. Mara's breath froze. Isaiah's hand went to his gun. Slade gave a mock sigh. So much hostility. Let me make an offer. Sell me your water rights, a generous price. Enough for you to start fresh somewhere far from this valley. No, Silas said. You haven't even heard. No. Slade's smile vanished. Everything is for sale, McCrae. Everyone has a price. Except, it seems, you. He turned his gaze on Mara. But what about you, Miss Quinn? Surely you don't want your brother serving in dangerous places. Mara's heart stopped. You leave him out of this, she said. Oh, but I can't, Slade whispered. I have friends at Fort Lincoln. Influence. I can make sure Patrick stays safe, or, he shrugged. I can't. A cold, furious strength rose in Mara. You're threatening a soldier to steal water, she said. Slade's smile returned. I call it negotiation. Get off this land, Silas said. Now. Slade gave a small bow. Think on my offer, because next time I won't be asking. He rode away, leaving the threat hanging like smoke in the air. That night, long after supper, Mara found Silas checking the barn doors. You should sleep, she told him. Can't, he admitted. Not when he's threatening your brother. Mara swallowed. Silas, he won't stop. I know. She leaned against the barn post, watching the moon paint his face silver. Tell me the truth, she whispered. Why are you really helping me? Silas stepped closer, the space between them humming like a live wire. Because, he said slowly, the day I saw that mob turn on you, something in me woke up, something I thought I'd lost long ago. She couldn't look away. And because you've got more courage than anyone I've ever known. Her breath trembled. And because, Silas said softly, you stole my heart faster than any gold ever could. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Silas. A gunshot split the night. Then another. Stay behind me, he ordered, pulling her toward the shadows. Cowboys ran from the bunkhouse. Isaiah shouted something about a figure near the chicken coop. They rushed forward and found a man on the ground, clutching a bullet wound in his shoulder. Slade's hired man. Matches spilled from his pockets. He was going to burn the barn, Samuel said. Again? Mrs. Valdez snapped from behind. These men have no shame! Silas crouched before the wounded man. "Who sent you?" The man spat blood. "Nobody you can stop." They tied him up until Clara could collect him in the morning, but Mara knew Slade was escalating. And he wasn't going to stop until someone lost everything. The next afternoon, Mara went to her room to retrieve the map. But when she lifted the mattress, something slipped out. A note. The handwriting was unfamiliar. "Your brother found more than water. Meet me at the old mission ruins. Midnight tomorrow. Come alone. A friend." Her stomach tightened. A trap? Or the one thing that could save them? The following night, Mara saddled a gentle mare and rode through the moonlit valley. Every shadow felt alive. Every sound made her flinch. She reached the old mission ruins, white stone bones under a silver sky. "Punctual," a voice said. A man stepped from the shadows, older, weary, with intelligent eyes. "Who are you?" Mara asked, hand near her pistol. "Dr. Marcus Thornton, territorial geologist. Your brother consulted me." Her breath caught. "He told me about his discovery," Thornton said, pulling out a leather folio. "An ancient riverbed beneath this land. A massive aquifer, enough water to change the future of the entire territory." He handed her documents, maps, surveys, proof. "This," he said gently, "is what Slade wants, and what he will destroy lives to control." "Why give it to me?" she whispered. "Because Patrick trusted you," Thornton said, "and because you have more to lose than anyone." Mara tucked the folio inside her coat. Before she could speak, a glow rose over the ridge. Fire. Her heart stopped. 3 rivers. She rode hard, faster than she ever had, praying the horse wouldn't fall. The glow grew brighter. Smoke stung her eyes. The scent of burning hay filled the air. When she reached the ranch, the barn was engulfed in flames. Cowboys formed a bucket line. Isaiah shouted orders. Silas fought through the smoke, dragging equipment and horses out. Mara jumped in without hesitation, passing buckets, shouting warnings, choking on the heat. Hours later, the fire died. The barn was gone. Half the winter feed was ash. On a surviving beam, burned letters spelled a message. Next time, the house. Consider Slade's offer. Silas's face was carved from stone. But Mara stepped forward, exhausted, yet fierce. "We're done being hunted," she said. "We take the proof to the judge. We file the claims. We fight him legally." Silas looked at her, eyes softening. "We," he repeated. "Not you, not me, we." She nodded. The war wasn't coming, it was here. But she wasn't facing it alone anymore. 3 days later, after filing the water rights and securing copies with Judge Crook, Mara stood beside Silas at dawn. The valley stretched before them, rough, wounded, but theirs. Silas took her hand, and for the first time since stepping off that train, she felt not afraid, but home. "Whatever comes," he said softly, "you won't face it alone." She squeezed his fingers. "Neither will you." Quote, "And as the sun rose, turning the land gold, Mara Quinn knew one thing with absolute certainty. Love was the strongest water in the world."